I've so far talked about a lot of Hanna-Barbera cartoons, but I am far from done talking about Hanna-Barbera cartoons. Although I don't think the new Three Stooges was a Hanna-Barbera cartoon. But that's besides the point. I'm far from over when it comes to talking about Hanna-Barbera cartoons. There's a whole bunch I still want to talk about, and by a whole bunch I mean I don't have much left to talk about, but I still have a bunch of Hanna-Barbera cartoons to talk about regardless. And today's video is no exception. Today, we're talking about the history of Josie and the Pussycats. No, not the comics. No, not for the real version. No, not the movie version either. Bruh, give me the. There it is. There it is. There it is. The cartoon version of Josie and the Pussycats. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about anything else. Okay. Editing Amy coming in here very quickly to say that I don't have a problem with Josie and the Pussycats being on Riverdale. I just hate Riverdale in general. Like, I don't mind that they were on Riverdale because they are Riverdale characters. They're part of the Archie comics. I just wish they weren't in this show. I just wish they got their own separate thing. I wish they weren't connected to this show. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Josie and the Pussycats being in Riverdale. I'm just saying I wish they weren't in Riverdale. Each episode of the show found the Pussycats and crew en route to perform a gig or record a song in some exotic location where somehow, often due to something Alexandra did, Alexandra is the sister of Alex, who is their manager, they became mixed up in an adventure. The antagonist was always a diabolical mad scientist, spy, or criminal who wanted to take over the world using some high-tech device. The Pussycats usually found themselves in possession of plans for an invention, an item of interest to villains, a secret spy message, etc., and the villains chased them to retrieve it. Eventually, the Pussycats would ruin the villain's plans, resulting in a final chase sequence set to the Pussycats song. With the villain captured, the Pussycats would return to their gig or recording session, and the final gag was always one of Alexandra's failed attempts to interfere with the Pussycats' performance or steal Alan away from Josie. So Josie, Valerie, and Melody have singing voices and speaking voices. So the singing voices for Josie, Valerie, and Melody are Kathy Dower, Patrice Holloway, and Sherry Moore, while their speaking voices are Janet Waldo, who played Judy Jetson, Barbara Pariot, and Jackie Joseph, who played Audrey in Little Shop of Horrors in 1960, and was also in Gremlins. Pretty cool. The other characters in this show are Don Messick, Alan, and no, Don Messick plays a cat, and Bleep. What? Why? But anyways, the other characters are Alan, who is, I think, Josie's love interest and the guy that Alexander's always trying to steal. And of course, we have the Cabot siblings, Alexander and Alexandra. Alexander is Alexander Cabot III, so his dad is the second, and also voiced by Casey Kasem, who is Shaggy and Scooby-Doo. And Alexandra Cabot is voiced by Sherry Alberoni. Don't know who that is. Also did not know Mickey was spelled with an E. But then again, the Mickey I know is, George Michael Dolenz Jr. You really thought I wouldn't reference Mickey in this video at all? You're wrong. Josie and the Pussycats. The productions and development of Josie and the Pussycats consists of its origins and its music. So the origins is that after Archie got popular, the show, Archie show got popular, and they made that song Sugar Sugar. Hanna-Barbera wanted to duplicate their competitors' filmation we're having with the Archie show. Because the Archie show is wasn't made by Hanna-Barbera. It was made by a different company. It was made by Filmation. So they're like, okay, we want to do something like that too. So after a failed attempt at developing a teenage music band show of their own called Mysteries 5, which eventually became Scooby-Doo, they decided to go to the source and contacted Archie Comics about possibly adapting one of their remaining properties into a show similar to the Archie show. Archie and Hanna-Barbera collaborated to adapt Archie's Josie comic book into a music-based property about a teenage music band, adding new characters such as Alan, Em, and Valerie, while dismissing others. So in preparation for the upcoming cartoon series, Hanna-Barbera began working on putting together a real-life Josie and the Pussycats girl group, who would provide the singing voices of the girls in the cartoon, and also record an album of songs to be used as both radio singles and in the TV series. Does that sound a bit familiar to you? While it does kind of sound like the Monkees, it's a bit different from that, as the Monkees weren't allowed to play their own instruments, but they were only allowed to sing, which did piss off Mike Nesmith and Peter Tork, who could play their own instruments. And Davy could sing Broadway. Mickey was learning the drums because he wanted to, be good for the show and stuff like that. But this isn't about the Monkees, it's about Josie and the Pussycats. Josie and the Pussycats recordings were recorded by Alala Productions, run by Danny Jassen and Bobby Young, a pseudonym for Bob Engelman of the Letterman vocal group. They had held a talent search to find 3 girls who would match the 3 girls in the comic book in both looks and singing ability. Early plans, which did not come to fruition, called for a live-action Pussy segment at the end of each episode. After interviewing over 500 finalists, they settled upon casting Kathleen Doherty, which is Kathy Daher, as Josie, Sherry Moon, later known as Cheryl Ladd, as Melody, and Patrice Holloway as Valerie. According to Danny Jassen's recollections in his liner notes for the Rhino compilation CD, Rhino, that sounds familiar. It sounds like something the Monkees are, with, but that could just be me. Danny was unaware that all 3 characters in the Archie comics were Caucasian, but Hanna-Barbera's art and animation elements were already in production, so there was concern about going back and changing the character, not because of race, but because of time and budget, and most of all, approvals. Jason said that he could not return to Patrice Holloway and take her out of the trio, so his only alternative was to leave the project. They were very nice about it, Jansen said, but they agreed that he could happily return for another project in the future. However, in the meantime, Hanna-Barbera would not have made such change in the midst of production without consulting with Archie Comics, who controlled the characters, CBS, who approved the series, and Kellogg's, the sponsor. So what?
The Monkees, brought to you by Kellogg. K-E-double-L-O double good. Kellogg's best to you.
They did end up replacing Pepper with a new character named Valerie, and so Pepper disappeared from the comics forever, and African-American Valerie took her place in December of 1969. The timeline of her debut in the comic book bears out the production of the series and the development of the merchandising design guides, which include Valerie. Hanna-Barbera initiated this in order to replace Pepper with African-American Valerie to keep Patrice Holloway. Then they hired African-American Barbara Patriot as Valerie's speaking role. Danny Jassen wasn't aware that this had happened until weeks later when he was brought back as a music producer and they made the records. The Valerie character was the first black female character on a regular Saturday morning cartoon series. The Hardy Boys drummer Pete Jones had been the first black male to appear on Saturday mornings a year earlier, but Pete's voice was not spoken by an African-American. Hanna-Barbera did cast Valerie's speaking voice accordingly, and Danny Jassen casted her singing voice, setting the historic precedent. Of the songs that were broadcast, Patrice Holloway sang lead on the series' theme song. You've Come a Long Way, Baby, Voodoo, It's All Right With Me, the hand-clapping song, Stop, Look, and Listen, Clock on the Wall, and Every Beat on My Heart. Holloway was a primarily lead vocalist on Roadrunner, which also features verses sung by Kathleen Doherty and Cheryl Ladd. Ladd sang lead on Inside, Outside, Upside Down, Dreammaker, I Want to Make You Happy, Time to Love, I Love You Too Much, Lie, 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 and Dreaming. According to songwriter vocal arranger Sue Sheridan, known as Sue Stewart at the time, Doherty felt she was stronger on harmony than lead and ceded her spotlight to Ladd. Essentially then, Josie was the group leader, but Valerie and Melody provided the trio with its singing voices.
Long tails and ears for hats, guitars and sharps and flats.
We're halfway done with this video. We have the home media and reception and then cancellation. So we're talking about the home media right now. And that's the fact that while I am mentioning Josie and the Pussycats in outer space in this video, there will be a separate video about Josie and the Pussycats in space. So, a VHS of Josie and the Pussycats in outer space containing 3 episodes was issued by World Vision Home Video in 1983. A second video cassette, Josie and the Pussycats in Outer Space Volume 2, was released in 1985. 2 VHS volumes of Josie and the Pussycats, each containing 4 episodes of the 1970 original series, minus the laugh tracks, were released by Warner Home Video. Hanna-Barbera had been sold to Turner Broadcasting in 1981, with Turner merging with Time Warner 6 years later. On April 10, 2001, to coincide with the release of the live-action film. A Josie in Outer Space episode, Warrior Woman in Amazonia, was featured in a clip/episode collection of Hanna-Barbera on VH1 released in the UK. A Josie and the Pussycats The Complete Series 2 DVD box set was released in Religion 1 on September 18th, 2007. All 16 episodes, again minus the laugh tracks, were included, as well as half-hour documentary of the life and career of Dan DiCarlo. The first episode of the series, The Nemo's a No-No Affair, is featured on the DVD compilation Saturday Morning Cartoons, the 1970s Volume 1, released on May 26, 2009. On October 19th, 2010, Warner Archive released Josie and the Pussycats in Outer Space, the complete series, on DVD in Region 1 as part of their Hanna-Barbera's classic collection of manufacturer-on-demand, aka MOD, releases, available exclusively through Warner's online store and Amazon.com. Both Josie and Josie in Outer Space were available on Boomerang and HBO Max streaming services, with the latter featuring the series of remastered HD copies, until they were both removed from apps. Both of the apps. Warner Archive released the HD versions of Josie and the Pussycats on Blu-ray in November 3rd of 2020, and Josie and the Pussycats in Outer Space on April 13th, 2021. And as for the reception, Josie and the Pussycats was named the 100th Best Animated Series on entertainment website IGN, which referred to Josie as an amusing show for the way in which it combined elements from The Archie Show and Scooby-Doo.
Sweet little song, your body come along. Hurry, hurry.
After Josie and the Pussycats was canceled, they made their final appearance as anime characters in a guest shot of the September 22nd, 1973 episode of the new Scooby-Doo movies, The Haunted Showboat. Early production art for Hanna-Barbera's 1977 All-Star Battle of the Network Stars spoof, Laugh Olympics, featured Alexandra, Sebastian, Alexander, and Melody among other Hanna-Barbera characters as members of the Scooby-Doobies team, but legal problems prevented their inclusion in the final program. In 1976, Randy McNally published a children's book based on the Josie and the Pussycats TV show, Hanna-Barbera's Josie and the Pussycats, The Bag Factory Detour. The original show was rerun on NBC, sorry, had to mention that, Saturday morning for the 1975-1976 season, and weekdays in syndication from 1977 to 1982. In the mid-1980s, both series, along with a number of other 1970s Hanna-Barbera cartoons, were on board USA's network Cartoon Express. They would appear on Cartoon Network in 1982, where all 32 episodes were run in the same time slot. Both programs, as of March 3rd, March 3rd, 2014, are in the library of Boomerang, Turner's Broadcasting Archive cartoon channel. I never saw Josie and the Pussycats on TV, but I did see, which will be mentioned in another video, their short on Boomerang and Cartoon Network called Musical Evolution, which you've been hearing in the background for this whole thing. So, that's the video. That's all I have to say. Josie and the Pussycats in Outer Space will be mentioned in another video, as will their spin-offs and spoofs. As for my thoughts, I never grew up with, reruns of this show. I've only seen that Musical Evolution video, so I can't really give a good review of Josie and the Pussycats, but I would assume they were pretty good. I mean, because, Josie and Scooby-Doo were, the most popular shows, and they're being copied all the time. I'm pretty sure Butch Cassidy was based on Josie and Scooby-Doo, but I don't remember my Butch Cassidy video that well, so that could just be me saying all that weird nonsense. But, thank you all for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. The next video will be Josie and the Pussycats in Outer Space, and then probably the Partridge Family in space. So I will see you all later.
Be your little Persia, or maybe